Welcome, sisters. This is Rekha here from Bangalore, India. As we are starting into coming together in sisterhood circles to look at the exploration of our body map journey, I wanted to make a very simple video presentation on how to host sisterhood circles. What is a simple template that we can use when we come together in circles? Because women coming together is very powerful, and hence, if we set the right intention and come together, we can really create magic with our coming togetherness. So that's what this presentation is going to be all about. So the Sisterhood Circle is a project of the She Stands Tall, one of the pillars of She Stands Tall project, and its mission is to create a culturally open, socially safe, sacred sisterhood container for women and girls from different social, cultural, economic, ethnic backgrounds, and even geographical backgrounds to engage in conversations around body, sexuality, and self that we would otherwise never have explored on our own. Sisterhood has become very rare. Women trusting women has also become rare. So the main intention of Sisterhood Circle is to really create supporting, nurturing and empowering sisterhood that women can lean on. Every Sisterhood Circle that we host needs to have a women-centered theme that both sets the intention for the circle and also brings us together in a way that we can explore, empower ourselves, and engage. And as we all know that deeply transformative work need not be serious, tough, difficult. It can be playful, intimate, and sacred when it is done in a setting of love, gratitude, sisterhood. And everything that we do, every cooking together, whether it's even shopping together, everything can be done in the container of the sacred, and it shifts the intention. And in the sisterhood circles, we weave six development aspects together: the physical, the emotional, the relational, the creative, psychological, and spiritual. If tears come, we let tears flow. We don't stop them. We don't go and smother somebody when they are crying. We let them cry. We create the space to become witness to our transformation, to the transformation of our sisters. And every sisterhood circle has a facilitator, somebody who holds the intention and takes full responsibility for making the sisterhood happen. This could be one person who puts the sisterhood together, or it could be led together. It could be co-led. There can be many women from the group who help the facilitator in different aspects, like reading an invocation or doing a closing. But the main role is of the facilitator, because the facilitator knows the intention for the circle. The facilitator facilitates the main body of the circle, and wherever needed knows when and where and how to step into and weave the loose ends. Facilitators always need to be watchful of the flow of energy in a circle and need to be fearless. With love and awareness, they need to guide the flow of energy in the circle. They have to create the space for open communication. Open direct communication can happen. The unnameable needs to be named in a very light, playful manner. The circle facilitator can always plan the various elements of the sisterhood circle thoughtfully, intentionally, and carefully, and decide ahead of time how she wants to involve the various group members and have to inform them ahead of time about their participation. Involve the group members in a very light manner, give them things that are very easy so they are not burdened by what they have to do. So they can also enjoy participating in the circle. Since a lot of responsibility lies on the facilitator. It is very important that the facilitator takes time prior to hosting or holding the circle to prepare herself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if it's a co-led model, if two or three sisters are coming together to lead or facilitate a circle, then they need to sit together, meet ahead of time, discuss, share, synchronize, and center themselves together so that they are in sync with each other as they facilitate the sisterhood circle. What are the various elements of a circle? Most important is an anchor, is making an anchor or an altar for the sisterhood circle. It could have different images, pictures, all the elements, right? And then another is setting a real intentional space, setting the intention so that the sacred can come together. Everyone who's coming can feel safe and yet be open enough to share. And another element, very powerful element, is opening of the circle. Then comes the main. Once we finish these first three steps, we enter into the main transformative body of the circle. And then finally, we have the conscious closing of the circle. So you can see the stars. Wherever I've put the stars, those are the places that we can involve the participation of the group members. Even in the body of the circle, you can have members participate, but they did not have been informed ahead of time. It could be something very light. Altar making. Altar making is very important to really create a grounding anchor for everyone walking into the space. It provides a space for all the five senses to be grounded, and it immediately brings a sense of safety coming together. So altar can be very simple or it can be very elaborate. What is important is you bring your personal touch to your altar. You incorporate the five elements. You incorporate air, ether, water, earth, and fire elements into the altar. Bring nature into different interactions on the altar and bring the sacred feminine, some aspect of the sacred feminine, and keep the altar in tune with the theme of the sisterhood, theme of the circle. And have tarots, have something playful. Women love tarot. Have tarot cards that are spread on the altar. Have a tarot book next to it so the women can just pick a card, look at the reading, and just start having interaction with the altar. You can have all art on the altar. Bring your art, bring all art of women, bring passages, bring words that are powerful on your altar. You can even have books connected to the theme that women can look at, and women can later on, they can buy these books on Amazon and things like that. And also you have to be very clear about directions about the altar. If there is something on the altar that you prefer that they do not touch, then you need to let them know ahead of time, because altar has to be a space where women feel very comfortable, very drawn to, very vulnerable. And that is the job of the altar. As women come in, that it gives them that space of feeling the sacred, visually, by touch, with smell, with the sounds. So altar is very important. Having your altar ready as members start coming into the space. That comes, how do we make the space sacred, open, and space for everyone? One is having a very warm space, which is put together with careful thought. Have light music playing, having positive images and quotes, having a welcome sign which is personalized, handwritten, and the facilitators personally interact with everyone coming in and make them feel comfortable. If the gathering is really big, then have assigned sister helpers who interact with everyone along with the facilitator. We always sit in a circle so that everyone is seen, every face is seen and heard in a circle. The altar can be in the center, that's one of the best places. And if it is not possible to have it in the center, have it in a place where it is visible and visually accessible. Use a rattle or a bell or a drum to bring everyone into the circle. You can have chairs, you can have pillows, or take care of the comforts of people who are coming in. And before you begin, acknowledge everyone's presence. You don't need to even have words. You can silently have eye contact with every person in the circle. And as you're doing it, encourage everyone else to do the same silently, looking at every woman who is there in the circle and acknowledging their presence. It's very powerful. Then you begin the circle by having an invocation, and the invocation could be a passage, or it could be as elaborate as invoking the directions with drumming, having sage and water for cleansing. So it could be simple to elaborate, but the invocation, bring yourself into the invocation. And then I always feel that setting a group rhythm, something that brings the entire group together in participation, having everybody take a little creative risk at the very beginning makes everyone feel comfortable. I do that through singing and movement at the very beginning, having a simple chant, a simple song that is rooted in the sacred feminine, rooted in the feminine journey, feminine narrative, and beginning by having everybody learn the song, sing it together, having different ways of doing chorus, then slowly encouraging people to move their hands, move around. If there are drums, if people have brought, you can encourage people to bring instruments so people can play the instruments as they sing, and just building slowly and expanding it to include everyone, and everyone singing together, laughing, moving, eyes closed. It creates a very powerful invocation and singing and rhythm into the room, and we have brought the sacred. And once the singing is done, having a moment of pause, silence, to really soak the vibrations of the singing and the voice, acknowledging what just happened, just acknowledging how everybody is feeling around the room, and then really moving into the purpose of coming together. What is the theme of the circle? Saying it out loud, and bringing in everybody's input into it, and asking everyone to agree upon few guidelines that can enable everyone to move towards the purpose and theme of the circle. And if there is any safety, if there is any concerns for anybody, if there is something that they need to feel safe, then give them the opportunity to voice it. This is also the space to acknowledge cross-cultural boundaries, cultural appropriation, and doing any boundary weaving that needs to be done. Acknowledging the elephant in the room if there's any discomfort. Creating the space for everyone to feel safe, vulnerable, and open. And then we move into powerful openings where we bring every voice into the room, every face, every story into the room with very simple introductions. With the facilitator begins by introducing themselves and also incorporates a personal sharing connected to the theme as to why are we here together. And then going around a circle and encouraging everyone to introduce themselves. It could be a very simple introduction of telling their name, or it could be something of bringing in your ancestry, saying I am Rekha, daughter of Balamani, granddaughter of Parvati Amma, and bringing your ancestry, your matrilineage into the room. Or it could acknowledging your connection to a spirit animal or an animal that you're drawn to, and sharing why you're drawn to that animal. And in that, you could even incorporate a miming where you don't really tell your animal, but you mime your animal by the voice or movement and let the group guess it. So bringing different ways of at every moment having your participants take a little creative risk. With introduction, each participant also shares the object they brought. So this I didn't mention it earlier, but when you have an altar, so that everyone feels connected to the altar, it is important to encourage everybody ahead of time to bring something connected to the theme that they can share on the altar. And this would be the time in the powerful openings where each person can share what they brought and what is symbolic about what they brought in connection to the theme. So, sharing something personal. It's always important in the very beginning when we open for sharing. Saying that based on your time, giving people's time, telling that we have 1 minute or 30 seconds, and we would encourage you to stick to the time. Just use few sentences, 1 or 2 sentences to describe yourself. But if everybody is going uh, few sentences more, it is okay. If it's they sometimes as women we have the habit of uh, saying the same thing in a very complicated manner, in that very bringing that awareness back to that person and just acknowledging that to them. And so uh, patience, one of the main key aspects of character strengths of a facilitator is immense patience. And once all the introductions are done, and if you have time, it's a full day event, then I would definitely encourage you to do some icebreakers or milling, the process of milling. And then we move into the main transformative body, where we do the exploration, where we do the embodiment and the engagement, the empowerment. This aspect happens here in this body, and based on the experience of the facilitator, be this could be this is where the juice of the entire gathering happens. It could be very simple, and yet it could have a very powerful uh, effect on those participating. And it's you can weave in the physical, the relational, emotional, creative, psychological, and spiritual aspects in this. The entire transformative body could just be based on a simple question, and using that question as a diving board. You can guide the group to explore a deeper through a guided visualization or a journeying activity or an embodied activity which involves movement or some form of creative art, sharing. So there's so many ways that the body can be made very powerful, and keeping it simple is very important, knowing that less is more. So the simpler you make it, with a simple question and bringing in different creative exploration using art and collaging and music and dancing movement, you could have a lot of fun while experiencing deep transformation. And you slowly bring the conscious closing, and it is very important to close by reflecting back on what was learned. So that's why we call it conscious closing. You can have sisters come in pairs, in groups, and really reflect on what they learned. How was it for them? They can even do some art activity or journaling in silence to consolidate the takeaways. What is it that they're going to take back with them? How is it going to change their life? What is it that they want to remember? And you can also do a closing invocation, bringing all the energies back together and letting it go. And it could be done with a prayer, or you can do a red thread closing where everybody holds a red thread. And you can do a tarot closing where everyone draws a card or a word, and shares what they got, and how does it resonate with what's happening with them right now, or they just share what's going on with them right now. How do they feel? What's happening to them? So by the time we come here, it's a very there's been a powerful journey that has happened. And you can always have some food that you could share. Everybody could bring some food also in a sisterhood, and you could sit together as part of your conscious closing. Sit together, eat together, and share as you're eating. So just holding the container all the way to the end, and you could leave in silence, or women can stay back and have more interactions. But this is a very simple. These are simple elements for hosting a circle. And I hope that when you are planning your sisterhood circle with your women, you could bring different aspects of these of this sisterhood circle and see and play with it and see how it happens for you. So it's because you know everybody is learning, so you can really help and support each other in this journey. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to write to me, and I would be more than happy to be there. So, we have some upbeat music that's happened just on its own, and so that shows let's have some fun as we engage with planning our sisterhood circle.